My name is Sheila, and I really have a passion for single parents and single parent ministries, and that's born out of my life situation. Um, Part of it is that growing up with a mother and father, I didn't have the experience that many had growing up in a single parent family. So it was new to me after I got married to end up being a single parent. Um, my story starts out in Gary, Indiana. I'm a sibling of 5 children. We grew up knowing that I had 3 people who were primarily important to me in my life that helped me and guided me in the path that I'm in now. My father, who was there, but with many life situations, um, it was kind of difficult to have a parent that was not exactly what they could have or should have been. My mother was the mercy person in the household, and she taught me mercy from a young age. Now, that doesn't mean that there weren't things in the family that was difficult, but she taught me mercy. My father taught me how to be strong, which I will always be grateful to him. Some of the mistakes he made were hard and trying, but one of the key things that he taught me to be was strong. But the most important person, I think, in my family history was my grandmother. And she didn't even live in my city. She lived in Mississippi. But she had a strong passion for God, and she really loved God, and she taught me principles. My parents never took me to church, although they allowed me to go. I didn't know really why I was going. It was something that was just done in our community. So I went to church. But my grandmother always taught me about God and always taught me how God was really there when you didn't see him, no matter what was going on in your life. So one of the key segments in my life was at the age of 13. When I was 13 years old, there was abuse in my household. When I was 13 years old, I decided that I did not want to live in my household anymore. So since I had parents that were not exactly what we might want them to be, I decided that I was going to get rid of the parents, go live in the children's home. Because I had met kids from the children's home, and they seemed to have a pretty good life compared to what I was going through. So I went and interviewed the people at the children's home. And they had nice little rooms and everything, and I thought, hey, that's the way to go. Well, my mother told me I just couldn't leave home. If I left home, then instead of going to the children's home, I'd end up in juvenile. So I had to stay there. So I said, oh, okay, well, it doesn't appear that I'm going to be able to leave there. And because of the abuse that was going on in my situation, I said, I really need out of this household. So at the tender age of 16, I got married, got pregnant, got married, and left the household. So at 16, what do you know? So not the best marriage situation. And that's how I ended up being a single mom, because there was abuse in my marriage situation. So I decided that I was going to leave. By this time, I had 4 kids. And many people might say, why would a single mom stay with an abusive situation? Because they feel they have no other options. So at the time, my parents didn't want me to come back home. Because of the abusive situation that I was in, the day that I decided to leave, I had 4 children, $2, and the clothes on our backs. So that made me homeless. But God is always faithful. And though there wasn't a church there to help me with my struggles, God positioned different people to help me in that situation. But no one helped me get a home. So I had no place to go. And my parents said, well, if you come back here, you left with no children. And if you come back, you're going to come back with no children. So at the tender age of 20, I had no place to go. I didn't feel I had any options. I didn't know anything that I could do. So I put the children in foster care. That was very hard. And one of the things that happens with single moms is they make choices because they don't feel they have other options. So I put the children in foster care, but I was really grieving for those children. So I went from a normal weight to 86 pounds. So my parents could see that I was grieving for my children, so they allowed me to bring the children to their home. Not that they didn't have space in their home, they just didn't feel that that was their obligation. If I had the children, then I should take care of my children. Well, the social services didn't think I should get my children back because they had spent money on my children. So God in his grace and my former husband, who was not very nice, he just went to the social services and told them they could either give me back my children or he would shoot them. So, that is the best thing he had ever done for me. So, social services gave me back my children. So, I was reunited with my children. But then there comes the daunting task of getting a divorce. Because back then, if you left your husband, then the system was sort of set up that you were kind of property of him anyway. So there was stalking. He would stalk me. Anytime I left my parents' home, he would stalk me. And the Lord was always with me. Somebody would call the police. They would escort me back home to my parents' house. And so I didn't feel safe living on my own. I didn't have the resources to live on my own. So then God was just working things out. When you don't see God, he said that he will work all things out for your good. So even though I didn't know him that well, he was still working in my situation. So he, in his wonderfulness, in his love for me, he brought somebody else into my life that showed me that God truly is love. And he worked through the situations where I could get a divorce, because in the strength that my father gave me, although I went through all of the systems to try to get the divorce, I couldn't get any help because he had the money. I had no money. I couldn't get a legal aid. They wouldn't help me because he made too much money, and I was still married to him. All of these situations, but because of the strength that my dad had gave me, I said, I'm getting a divorce. No matter what happens, I'm getting a divorce. So I ended up going seeing the mayor of our city where we were living, Gary, Indiana. Went to see the mayor, and I saw his attorney. And he said, so what's going on here? And I told him what was going on. He says, I will take the case for you. So I ended up with the city attorney helping me get my divorce. And it was the grace of God. I mean, he, if you're willing to step out in faith, then he's willing to help you. So I ended up with my divorce, and my mom said to me, you know what? You might meet someone who will love you and your kids too. And I said, yeah, right. By this time, I had come to a church, and they had accepted me on the surface. But I was lonely, the guys in the church, unless they were married, just went the other way. The married guys would talk to me because they felt like they were safe, but the single guys wouldn't talk to me because, I might be a burden to them. So God worked it out. He's always working on your behalf. So I went to this conference, this church conference, and met my present husband. And he talked to me, and I said, he must be married. But he wasn't, and he was an older guy, and he was one who would celebrate the gifts and the talents that God had given me. He wouldn't put me down, but in God's grace, he knew from all of the trauma that I had been through as a child and all of the trauma that I had been through in my married life, if I had a husband that clamped down on me and told me I had to do this, it would not have worked. So I had a mellow husband that let me be who I needed to be. I had to grow up and know how to be a wife. So I had a husband that would help me do that. And so he's always celebrated my gifts and my talents, and he's always helped me to be who I could be in the Lord. And in the meantime, the Lord was growing me to understand how it is to be a single parent, what it's like to do without, what it's like to make those hard decisions, what it's like not to know where your next meal is going to come from, where you're going to live, when you know that you have to be at work, but you don't know who's going to take care of your children while you're gone. And it's all about God's timing. So he helped me to get to see that he loved me, that he really wanted to help me, and that I'm not different from other women. He gave me a passion for women's ministry, and because of that, I have been able to help and support other women. I've been there because I've seen what it is to be a single parent. I've seen what it is to make those hard choices. So because I know that God has helped me through those situations, I know I have absolute faith that he will be able to help them. So why should a church be involved with single parent families? Because there are women there who have gifts and talents that they don't recognize those gifts and talents because no one has encouraged them, affirmed them, but they have them. They have been able to do fantastic things. So because I was affirmed, because God was always there in the picture, he helped me to recognize the leader that was in me. Because a woman who has to manage all these different things are leaders. They may not recognize it, they may feel beat down, but God is loving them. He allows them to go through certain things, but he wants them to recognize, hey, you need me. The church is the salt and the light because the church has what these single parents need. They may not think, the single parents may not think they need the church, but they do because we have the light. We have what they really need. Their soul hurts can be helped by the church. And if the church recognizes that these single parents have something to give, then these single parents can grow. You can mentor the children in the churches. You can mentor the families in the churches, and this will help not only the parents and the children, it'll help the communities. And as we help the communities to recognize the strengths of the single parents, because I didn't know I was a leader. I didn't know that I had strengths and talents, but God uniquely gave me these strengths and talents for broken people who are healed are stronger than people who've never gone through things. Even I'm a nurse now because I recognized that in order for me to get out of the poverty that I was in, I needed a profession where I could give and where they would give to me in that the salary would be enough that I could support my family on my own if I had to. Because I didn't trust at first when I got married, I didn't trust that this man was going to be with me either. But he was. and he supported me as I went through school, as I gone through training to be in ministry. He's always been there to support me, but he wouldn't be there if God hadn't put him there, and if the church hadn't supported me in my growth, because I came into the church raw and hurt. But the church helped me to grow and to learn that I had gifts and talents, and the church helped me to get to know who God was so that he could mentor me out of the hurt and the pain that I was in. And as I was growing, God says the comfort that he gives us, he will use that same comfort to comfort others. So the comfort that I received in the church helped me to comfort other women and to help them grow. So I've seen women come in busted and disgusted and to grow and be leaders in the church, just as I came in broken and became a leader in the church. So therefore, I just want everyone to know that it's really important to allow the churches to understand the depths of the pain and the hurt that many women come into, and because they may be abrasive, don't think that they're not worth putting in the effort. I just want to thank you all.